PFL just made their most important signing ever, and it's not even a fighter. Forget Francis Ngannou. The real key to PFL's future might just be John Martin. John Martin's a former CEO of Turner Broadcasting, chief financial officer at Time Warner. He's pretty legit, and he comes from a media background which PFL could really benefit from right now. Now, the main concern would be, okay, PFL has had a lot of legitimate people running their organization for its whole existence. But in practice, we've seen Donn Davis, we've seen Peter Murray, who has now been replaced by John Martin in a lot of ways. We've seen a lack of respect for MMA, passion for the sport, and it begs the question, well, what are you doing running an MMA promotion? Well, I'll tell you, it's money. They're venture capitalists, and honestly, they've done a pretty good job considering they know nothing about the fight game. They've built something decent, but it's time for something different. And that's where John Martin comes in. This guy has, made the walk in terms of big business, and on top of all of that, he's a legit fight fan. He's a black belt in karate. He's a blue belt in BJJ. This is a guy that understands what it's like to be a fighter and run a business. And with that being said, this is undoubtedly the most qualified candidate we've seen in the PFL CEO role. Now, Donn Davis is still going to stay in the picture. Peter Murray is still going to stay in the picture. Obviously, his role will be reduced. It looks like he's going to be working on more of the international scene, PFL Africa, PFL MENA, those kinds of concepts. But John Martin is the man for the job now. It's going to be content, broadcasting, monetization, you name it. John Martin is going to be operating the fight side of things. And, Donn Davis has the final say ultimately, but he's found someone that he can trust, that he can see as a leader for what he's built, because he recognizes that, I'm not the guy to get out there at the presser and talk about the fights. He admitted he doesn't even watch fighting. He runs the second largest MMA promotion in the world, and he doesn't watch fights. Well, find someone that does. Find someone that can talk about the fights. And that's exactly what we've got right here. He's credible and he's reliable, and that applies to fighters and fans. So I think this is a really big deal for PFL. This isn't just a token hire. This is a guy that has been hired to make a difference. With PFL's broadcasting rights deal coming up in 2027, the end of 2026, they'll go into 2027 negotiating with new television broadcasters, and with a guy like John Martin, there's no reason he won't have the connections to maximize that deal and land the best spot possible on television or streaming. So it's great that PFL finally got someone that understands both sides. They have Donn Davis, great at raising money, doesn't really bring anything else to the table when it comes to MMA. Peter Murray seemed much of the same. Ray Sefo has respect to the fighters, but he doesn't do much in terms of the business side of things. So, we've seen Jonathan Coachman even, who has said himself he wants to be the Dana White of this promotion. He's increased his role from betting analyst to full spokesperson for post-fight pressers and media and whatnot. So I could definitely see John Martin taking that spot, and it'll be great for PFL to finally have a face of the promotion. You see UFC, half the time they're making headlines because of what the promoter is saying or doing. That being Dana White. He's become a celebrity of sorts, really the face of UFC in an era where the fighters aren't the draws anymore. So if they can create a connection with the audience through John Martin, through him waving the PFL flag with respect and dignity, this could be a game changer. Not from just that point of view, but the strategy, the operations, and the finances side. It's a full reshuffling, and I think they realize that they're on the right track and they're making improvements, but it's just not quick enough, and they need someone like John Martin who has experience scaling global media brands like the PFL. And like I said, he's got passion for martial arts. He cares about PFL. There is nothing PFL needs more than somebody who cares. How can you get anyone excited for the fights if the guy running them doesn't even care? You know, he's going to help with that. He's going to help navigate rights deals, content growth, hopefully storytelling, which they've made a lot of progress in. You know, they certainly lacked it in previous years, but Jonathan Coachman's involvement has helped a lot in terms of getting people to care about these fights through the storytelling, through the sharing of characters. You know, hopefully that only increases with John Martin's involvement. You know, incompetence is no longer an excuse, okay? You know, you could chalk it up to, oh, well, Donn Davis, he's great at raising funds, but he doesn't really get fighting. Not anymore. They have all of the assets to really make an impression. You look at secondary leagues in sports and entertainment, you look at AEW, you know, similar age, I believe. I think they started around the same time as PFL. They just sold 25,000 tickets in Arlington. That is unimaginable for PFL right now. They struggle to sell 500 tickets right now. So John Martin, he needs to come in, acknowledge these problems, and I have a lot of faith that he's going to. And I think action will be taken fairly quickly. This guy, he's worn a gi, he's worn a suit, you know, and PFL needs more than a checkbook right now. They need a vision. And I think he's the guy that has the vision to sell the fight and sell the brand. Okay? John Martin, you know, he's not a divine savior, but he might just be the grown-up in the room that PFL has needed this whole time. So let me know what you guys think on this acquisition. I really do think this is huge. I think this is the biggest thing they've done since signing Francis Ngannou, purchasing Bellator. You know, it's been rocky since those events. So I think John Martin's going to come in, take order, and hopefully skyrocket PFL to a true competitor in the mixed martial arts world. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more friendly fighting discussion.